Silence filled the control room. The stars outside didn't blink, and time felt frozen. Commander Trevik stared at the screen. A signal, old, broken, and impossible, was coming from a dead zone in space. No ship had entered that region in over 300 years. "What is that?" his officer asked. The signal was weak but clear. It was human language. That couldn't be. Humans were only a myth, stories told to scare children. No one truly believed they ever existed. Trevik ordered the ship toward the source. After hours of flying, they found it. A small escape pod floating in black space, damaged but intact. Inside it was a man, pale skin, dark eyes, breathing, alive. They brought him aboard and ran tests. The computer beeped once, then again. Match found, species, human. Gasps filled the lab. "It can't be real," one scientist whispered, but then the man opened his eyes. He sat up slowly, looked at them, and said, "You should have left us forgotten." The lights flickered. Something cold passed through the air. The myth had just become real. The human sat in a cold metal chair. His hands were locked behind him. A guard stood close, weapon ready. Dr. Vell, an alien scientist with silver eyes, stared at the human through the glass. "He doesn't speak again?" she asked. The guard shook his head. "Not a word since that first sentence." The human kept looking forward. No fear, no movement, just quiet. But inside his mind, something was waking up. Flashes, fire, screams, children running through metal halls, a planet turning to ash. He clenched his fists. The sound of crackling fire echoed in his memory. Dr. Vell turned to her screen. DNA results confirmed it. Human, fully. But this was not just biology. It was history returning. Suddenly, the human looked directly at the glass. His eyes locked with hers. He stood up slowly. The guard shouted, aimed his weapon, but the human didn't move. He just said one word. "Why?" Dr. Vell felt a chill. "Why?" "What?" He repeated louder this time. "Why did you erase us?" Then, alarms screamed. Power flickered. Systems crashed. The human smiled. Just a little. Outside the room, other labs started to fail. Lights died. Machines went silent. The myths hadn't just returned, they were remembering everything. The power outage lasted only 7 seconds, but it was enough. When the lights came back on, the human was gone. The guard lay unconscious on the floor. The steel, cuffs that held the human, melted like they'd been burned from the inside out. Alarms screamed across the station. Soldiers ran through the halls. "He's escaped. Sector 7, lock it down." He took a weapon from the guard. "Repeat, he's armed." Dr. Vell watched the security feeds. One by one, the cameras went dark. "He's not just running," she thought. "He knows this ship." On screen 14, they saw him, moving fast, silent, deadly. He wasn't confused, he wasn't lost. He was home. Then he entered the control center. Before anyone could stop him, he sent a message, broadcasting to every ship and station in the alien fleet. A single sentence. "You erased us. Now it's your turn to be forgotten." Then he vanished into the dark, leaving behind chaos. An explosion rocked the lower levels. Smoke filled the air. One soldier shouted, "He planted charges. He's been planning this." Dr. Vell whispered to herself, "No, he didn't just survive. He waited." The myth wasn't just real. He was a soldier, and the war was starting again. Lieutenant Cray wasn't like the others. He didn't believe in myths. Until now. He stood in the wrecked control room watching the message play again. "You erased us. Now it's your turn to be forgotten." The human was gone. The station was damaged. But the question echoed in Cray's mind. Why would anyone erase an entire species? He opened a forbidden file system, records sealed for over 500 years. The warning on the screen flashed red, classified, extinct species, humanity. He broke the lock. What he found changed everything. Old videos, war reports, council meetings. Hundreds of years ago, humans had risen fast, too fast. They were stronger, smarter, more adaptable than any species. The galaxy's leaders feared them, so they united, not to make peace, but to destroy them. The files showed human cities burned from orbit. Entire planets wiped clean. One alien commander wrote in a report, "Humanity is too dangerous. Their fire must be extinguished forever." But then, one final message, a human voice full of rage and sorrow. "You fear us because we remind you of your weakness. But myths never die. We become legend." Cray stepped back, shaken. "They lied to us," he whispered. "We didn't stop a threat. We murdered a future." Behind him the lights flickered, and far away, in deep space, more signals began to wake. The attacks began quietly. First, a weapons depot vanished, no trace left. Then a deep space patrol ship stopped responding. A week later, an entire outpost was found abandoned. No bodies, just a single message burned into the wall. HFY, humans for you. The alien governments were confused, then terrified. Every witness told the same story: shadowy ships, fast strikes, no survivors. And always that same symbol. HFY. Lieutenant Cray watched the reports pile up. "This isn't one man," he said. "They're organized." Dr. Vell nodded. "And they've been waiting for centuries." In the outer colonies, fear spread. People whispered that humans had returned. Some believed it. Some laughed, until one day a massive ship appeared in orbit above a trade hub. It didn't fire. Instead, it broadcasted a message to all. "We offered peace. You gave us extinction. Now we return, not for revenge, but to remind you that we never left." Then the ship disappeared into the stars, faster than anything on record. All across the galaxy, panic began, and deep beneath the surface of a forgotten moon, 1,000 human soldiers stood in formation, quiet and still. Their commander, the same man from the escape pod, walked to the front. "Phase 1 is complete," he said. "Now they remember us." Lieutenant Cray had to see it for himself. Using the secret files he uncovered, he followed a hidden signal trail, old human code, buried in deep space noise. It led him to a dead system. No planets, no light, nothing but silence. But then, his ship's sensors picked up something. A cloaked station, massive, ancient, alive. As he landed, his ship shut down completely. No power. No control. The station had taken over. Moments later, a voice spoke through his ship's broken speaker. "Calm, cold, human. You found us. Enter." He stepped out. The air was breathable. The hallways were dark, lined with old human tech. Familiar, yet far more advanced than anything Cray had seen. He walked deeper, and then froze. There they were, rows and rows of humans. Not in cages, not in pods, in armor. Ready, watching. One stepped forward, the man from the escape pod. "Lieutenant Cray," he said, "you're the first to come here in peace." Cray lowered his weapon. "Why hide? Why now?" The human looked around at his people. "We weren't hiding. We were waiting for the galaxy to forget." He paused. His voice turned sharp. "And now we make sure it remembers." Screens lit up across the walls, maps of alien cities, fleet movements, power grids. This wasn't a rebel camp. It was command. It was war. And it was just beginning. The doors to the command chamber slid open. Lieutenant Cray followed the human leader inside. The room was dark, round and quiet, except for the low hum of machines decades ahead of alien tech. Holograms floated in the air, dozens of planets marked with red, yellow and blue lights, targets, allies, unknowns. "This is what we've been building," the commander said. "While the galaxy told bedtime stories about us, we were preparing." Cray stared at the holograms. "You've been watching us for years," the commander nodded. "Studying, listening, and remembering." Another human, tall, armored, scarred, stepped forward. "We don't want chaos. We want truth. We want balance." Cray asked, "Then, why attack the stations? Why send fear?" The commander replied, "Because they must feel what we felt. Fear, silence, the edge of extinction." He pointed at a screen showing the alien High Council, the ones who ordered humanity's erasure long ago. "We don't seek revenge," he said, "but we will not let them write history again." Then he looked Cray in the eyes. "You have a choice. Help us rebuild the truth, or protect a lie." Cray hesitated. The stories he grew up with, all false. The monsters were the victims behind him. The human soldiers stood ready. The myths weren't just alive, they were united, and they were done waiting. The skies above the alien capital turned black. At first they thought it was a storm, then the alarms screamed. Human ships had arrived, sleek, silent, and nearly invisible to radar. They surrounded the city like shadows. The alien military scrambled fighters, but they were too slow. A blast hit the main defense tower. Lights across the capital flickered. Panic spread like fire. In the council hall, leaders shouted, "They were myths." They were wiped out. How did they return? One screen lit up. The human commander appeared. He looked older now. His voice was calm. "We do not come to conquer. We come to correct the lie you built on our graves. The truth is no longer buried." Then the attack began. But it wasn't total war. The human ships only hit military targets, power grids, weapons systems, communication centers, carefully chosen, no civilians harmed. Still, the fear was deep on the ground, Lieutenant. Cray stood in the chaos, trying to stop the panic. "They're not here to destroy us," he shouted. "They want us to remember." In one square, a statue of an alien general was toppled. Beneath it, someone found an old plaque, written in human language, covered for centuries. A warning, a memory, a truth. The battle wasn't just about power, it was about history, and history was fighting back. The fires had faded, the battle was over, but the galaxy held its breath. In the center of the alien capital, the council stood face to face with the human commander. Around them, human soldiers stood silent, blasters lowered, eyes sharp. The air was heavy. The commander spoke first. "You once gave us no choice. You erased our homes. Now we give you a choice." He paused. "Join us in building something better, or fall with the lies you built." Some on the council looked away in shame. Others stared back with hate. Then, surprisingly, one elder stepped forward. She bowed her head. "I was told humans were monsters," she said. "Now I see. We were the monsters." Behind her, several alien leaders laid down their weapons, but not all. A general shouted, "This is blackmail through fear." The human commander turned slowly. "No," he said. "This is your mirror. Look into it." Across the galaxy, other alien species began to rise, some in support, some in panic. Civil wars sparked. Old truths resurfaced. The galaxy was changing. In a quiet room later, Cray asked the commander, "What if they choose war?" The commander answered without anger, "Then we survive it, like we always have. But this time, not as ghosts, as the truth." A cycle had ended. Across the galaxy, broadcasts echoed with one message. Humanity lives. No longer a legend. No longer erased. On a green world far from war, a new meeting was held, not in secret halls but in the open sun. Humans stood side by side with the alien races that chose peace. Former enemies now sat at the same table. The human commander stepped forward. His armor was scratched, his voice steady. "You once called us dangerous. You feared our strength. But what made us strong was not war." He looked across the crowd. It was memory, hope, the will to rise again. Applause rose from both sides, slow then stronger. The human flag was raised next to the flags of a dozen species. Lieutenant Cray watched from the crowd, thinking of all he had believed, and how it had been a lie. Now he would help rebuild truth. A young alien child asked her mother, "Were they really myths?" The mother smiled. "No, child. They were just forgotten." Then she pointed to the humans standing tall. "But now they are the ones who remember us all." Above them, the stars shone brighter. The myth of humanity had ended. A new story had begun.